Representative Pope, you have a question.
A couple of them. Since you began by addressing me, I'm just curious how you imagine, for example, you brought up the example of crime on the school board, on the school grounds. Who determines or defines what is a crime? Who notifies whom in order to generate this notification? What will the enforcement mechanism be? What will be the consequence of failure to notify? And what will prevent frivolous lawsuits when things happen beyond the control of anybody who is involved in the school ground?
Sure. Well,
How
I think
do those questions get answered?
I think you prevent frivolous lawsuits by following the law, number one. Number two, I think we've talked about this. We decide what's a crime and what's a felony based on what the law defines it as. So obviously, if a second grader steals a pen out of a third grader's backpack, the entire school district doesn't need to be alerted. I think we could, think of a bunch of hypothetical situations where there's minor little things going on. We're talking about crime or felony. So by law, what defines a crime or a felony? Those things.
Theft is crime.
Yep. So those things should be communicated. If a crime or a felony is committed on school grounds, I should be told about it.
Who determines that? Who is standing
The law
around?
determines that if there's a crime or a felony.
Who's standing around to see the crime occur?
The hundreds of teachers in our school district, the dozens of
Midnight on
administrators.
August Saturday?
The police department alerts the school, and then the school board is notified, and the administration sends out an email. They have a very good pattern of communication that goes on. So if something happens at the lower level, we have an entire, if I want to talk to somebody at school, I'm supposed to go to my assistant principal, then my principal, then the assistant superintendent, then the superintendent, then the school board. We've got these levels of communication, and they're put in place, and for the most part they work, and I don't see why this would be any different. If there was a need for communication, we would go through the channels, and for a crime or felony, this would probably involve a police department, and the superintendent would probably then send out an email. It's a very easy course of communication.
Seeing no other questions, that leaves it to me then. So I really appreciate that you came out.
Thank you.
Because we know from being here how to interrupt your day as a parent and come here. It's very important. I suggest you take your son and sit him down in front of the TV and have him watch Wisconsin Eye and just have him watch even your testimony to show him how this process works. And I don't know if I'd categorize the look as dumb. I've got 4 kids, and I would just call it a barren look.
You know the look, the teenager look, yeah.
It extends into college too. So, unless they're asking for money, then the look is more pleading.
Right.
But I have a question. Do you have school resource officers in your district?
Yeah, we do.
Do you have a separate group that then oversees that or oversees security?
I don't know that specifically, but I would assume we do, yes.
Okay, so that's a
large
lead-in.
school district.
As a former school board president, we had a system in which, at least with our school district, was one thing that they were doing right. There was a security system put in place from kindergarten all the way through 12th. We funded half of Deputy Chief Maceman's salary. Racine Police Department did the other, and they coordinated all security issues throughout every school. We had a director of facilities, alarms. So when you talk about the who's going to communicate things, I can tell you from personal experience. As you said, there's an extensive network, okay, and you don't know how many times the board is briefed by the head of Chief Maceman in our meetings and so on about what happens, types of crimes, so on. It's usually handled at the school level with the principal, and then usually decisions made to go out to all parents and what should be communicated, because one of the things you don't want to do is start hysteria, but you do need to advise people as to what's going on. And the district I represent, there are schools in some very, let's just put, very challenging neighborhoods where there's crimes right outside the school building. Mm-hmm. And so we have to notify parents. So it can be done. You are exactly right.
Thank you.
And so I appreciate that. And I think if more, school districts, it's not something that we were required to do, but it's something that we did at our level because it was important to the parents that we had in the district. And I credit our superintendent at the time that did that. So I would totally agree with you. And when you mentioned that you got a communication with the school board president that he said he spoke on behalf of all the board members, that in a way is fairly true, but that's normally done on issues. Any school board member can talk on a difference of opinion, but when it's something that was voted on, the board president normally speaks on behalf of the board, and sometimes that's difficult when the vote doesn't go quite the way that you want. But
Sure.
I appreciate you coming